Today we're going trick-or-treating with part 2 of our video series, so stick around. Hello colorists, welcome to PencilStash, a weekly show all about coloring. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to get all the new content, and be sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying my videos. Oh, and stay tuned to the end of this video where I'll be announcing winner number 2 for the Halloween or autumn-inspired coloring page from our PencilStash Adult Coloring Facebook group. Today we're going to do part 2 of this trick-or-treat page from the coloring book Romantic Country's Second Tale by Erie. If you missed part 1, you might want to check that video out first, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Part 3 will be uploaded tomorrow, Halloween, and will be the final video for this page. Keeping these pages separated into a few videos allows me to keep as much as possible in real time for you guys. So let's get right back into it. Pulling out our deco yellow again, I'd like to have our door window illuminated and casting light onto our two trick-or-treaters here. So I'll start by filling the window itself in with a simple flat layer of this deco yellow using medium pressure. I'll also line the bottom ledge of our window frame, as well as cast some of that light down onto the front of the door. And to keep this light, I'm holding my pencil about halfway up the shaft and coloring with the side of the pencil core. This light we're adding is the same concept that I mentioned in the last video about looking right away at your available light sources. And hopefully right at the start of your page, before you even pick up a pencil, you can look at whatever possible light sources might be on your page, whether it be lanterns or candles, the sun, whatever it might be, and just taking those into account when you're coloring. I can't tell you how many times I start to color something only to realize that there's a lantern nearby that I have not taken into account. And it usually ends up fine, but it's just a lot of fun to play with those light sources, and the more ahead of time that you plan, the better it'll come out. I'm going to be using an autumnal color palette, so when I approached what colors to use on the house facade, I wanted to stay relatively neutral so that the other colors on our page would pop. So let's use ginger root up on this beam and on the house facade itself, this kind of lower half. And we'll jazz it up afterwards by layering in some other colors. I'll also color the bottom part of the house facade ginger root as well, and we'll mirror the colors and layered effect that we're producing on our beam on the house facade too, so they'll kind of match. Next, we'll layer in some peach beige, and you'll notice this series of colors is very much my go-to for kind of warm, neutral beiges. And in terms of where to place this, I'm sort of using the white spaces that I may have left with my earlier passes of ginger root as my guide for where to place my peach beige. I'm just kind of filling in those spaces. And I'll do the same thing on the house facade now, focusing this color at the corners and around objects where it would kind of be shadowed against the house. Doing the same thing with artichoke, which will add a wonderful hint of green to our beige palette, giving it just a touch of that kind of natural weathering. And our final layer here will be bronze, another great warm neutral that plays really well with the other layers of color. Moving on to the upper portion of the wall, I'm not really sure what to make of the texture the artist has given us here. No clue what this could be, so I'm just going to kind of ignore it for the most part and make this upper section an earthy moss green and brown, starting with artichoke. This color will be the lightest color we'll use, so I'll place this wherever I feel maybe a highlight would be or some lighter variation of color would fall. Then in with moss green, filling about 80% of the available blank space. Remember to feather lightly into the artichoke color too to blend it better later. Filling in the rest of the white space with dark brown. And then we'll also cover some of the moss green sections to build up yet another color, kind of layering it, giving us in essence a fourth color. Adding dark brown to our lower half of the walls here too, just to kind of grime it up, weather it up just a little bit, as well as add some additional shadows. Now we'll go back over the upper half of the wall again with another layer of moss green. The only areas you'll avoid here are those lighter artichoke areas. And you'll notice that this layer of moss green is actually helping to blend a lot of these colors together so that when we actually go to use our blender here in a minute, it'll actually already sort of be half accomplished for us. Now we'll blend all these colors out, kind of bringing them the rest of the way home, bringing them together and punching up the vibrancy at the same time. Let's move on to the bricks around our door frame. Starting with nectar, adding it as randomly as possible. Try to color different areas of the bricks, different frequencies of spaces, etc., to make this kind of as haphazard as possible. Do the exact same thing with clay rose and henna. We're going to make these bricks a combination of autumn reds and browns, and it'll take many layers and many colors, so try to be patient during this process. Switching to jasmine, we'll employ the same technique but with much greater frequency than the reds that we just used. We'll cover about 40–50% of the remaining brick surface with jasmine, but again making it random. Add some dimension with sandbar brown. Remember to try varying where you're adding colors on each brick just to make each and every one of them unique. Now color whatever white spaces may have remained with light umber. Okay, using sepia, we'll do a few things with this color. Number one, we're going to outline each brick to give it dimension, meaning we'll be creating the shadow between the bricks, giving the illusion that they actually have 3 dimensions. It'll kind of make them pop. And number two, we'll also add some of this color on the bricks themselves to create that rough surface that bricks naturally have. And finally, blend it all together. All right, let's start on the centerpiece of our page, which is our front door. I really struggled with what color this door should be. Should it be blue to add a focal point, kind of make it stand out from everything else on this page? No, I thought it might stand out a little bit too much in blue and not in a good way. So then I thought about green, but I just did a video where I did a big wooden green door and a big staircase, lots of woodwork in green. So I didn't want to do that again. Red could work. That's a good possibility. So we'll kind of keep that idea in our back pocket. Yellow might get lost with the light that we're trying to capture coming out of this window here. So what's left? So out of the autumnal hues, I was left with orange, which I don't think I've ever done before, and I really kind of like the idea of orange, so orange it is. We're just going to build up layers of color here until we get the look that we're going for. Also keep in mind the direction of your pencil strokes. The wood grain on this door is vertical, so your strokes here should be vertical as well. You kind of want to go with that grain of the wood. And this will add texture and kind of keep your strokes consistent across the entire surface. Now another curveball, we're going to actually add that slate gray bluish color that we used on our pumpkins in part 1 of our video series. This blue will add great deep tone beneath our oranges. And I'm localizing this to mainly around the edges of our door and just a bit on the surface itself. Sepia now to add some shadow around the edges of the door and to weather up the surface a little bit. And finally, we'll finish with our blender, using the same vertical strokes to bring it all together. All right, let's take a break. That is it for part 2 in our video series. Stay tuned for part 3, which will be uploaded tomorrow, Halloween. And here's a sneak peek of the finished product. And as promised, here is the second of the 3 winners that I've chosen from our PencilStash Facebook coloring group. It was colored by Deborah Taylor from the book Autumn Magic by Molly Harrison. Deborah used colored pencils and soft pastels. Deborah, this page is amazing. I love the effect that you were able to achieve with the sky, and you could just get lost in the folds of her dress. Awesome job, and thanks so much for sharing with us. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. It helps new folks find my channel. And if you want to subscribe, hit the circle in the center of your screen with my face on it. That'll bring you right to the subscribe page. And if you want to watch more of my coloring tutorials, you can either follow that video link on your screen or visit my channel to pick one of your own. Thank you again so much for watching today, guys, and I will see you again tomorrow.